Hi guys, weather's not as nice today at all. I'm wearing a jacket now, and huge big grey clouds. It's definitely not as hot as it was yesterday, and I feel like such a culture because I'm actually delighted there's a bit of rain because the grass is getting a bit dry, needs a bit of moisture. But yeah, the sun will definitely be out. The sun will come out tomorrow, as Annie says. Eyes are getting really watery with all the pollen and the hay fever. I was out all day in it for the whole week pretty much, and it's weird because I feel really good when I get out into it, but then afterwards I've trouble sleeping and I have to take loads of antihistamines. My hay fever just gets so bad. What I wanted to talk about in this video was kind of society as a whole and how we think we're so civilised, but really look at all the shit that's going on today, and I mean that says otherwise, so let's get into it anyway. I think it just shows exactly how our values work nowadays when you see genocide going on, and it is. You can't say anything else about it. It's fucking genocide that's going on with Palestinians. Children are being killed by Israeli soldiers, and rather than talking about that and the IDF, Israeli Defence Forces, what are people focusing on? Kneecap. Saying stuff, speaking out against it. And I mean, I get that they're divisive characters, I saw the film, I thought it was pretty good. I think they've definitely done a lot for the Irish language, which I'm in favour of. I think they're a bit argumentative, me and my brother were only talking about that. Even when Pat Kenny was interviewing them, who was an Irishman from the Republic, they still get argumentative with him. And it's like, not everyone is out to get you, so calm the fuck down. And it's just like, whatever your opinion of them though, that whole thing from Coachella and their speech, and the flag going onto the stage, the flag was from, or represented, Hezbollah, the Islamic terrorist group. And from my understanding, a fan threw it on. They didn't pick it up, maybe they did. If anyone wants to inform me more on that, please do, but I'm not claiming to know all about it. Would have been different if they'd brought it with them. So then you're like, yeah, well, you're not really helping yourself there, but there's a lot going on, with the they're obviously anti-establishmentarian. That's a big word. They obviously follow anti-establishmentarianism. There we go, that's a better way of saying it. But everything they're doing is just speaking. You know what I mean? It's all words, like what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's not important, but children are being killed. That's the fact of the matter, Israeli soldiers are shooting children dead. They're killing innocent people. I was only looking at a tribute to Martin McGuinness. God rest his soul, R.I.P. He's another divisive character, but he spoke about what happened in Northern Ireland where he grew up. I think it's very hypocritical for people from the south of Ireland, such as myself, to question his methods and talk to him about what he should have done and shouldn't have done. Him and Jerry Adams, and I found Ryan Tuberty so hypocritical when he was condemning Jerry Adams and his family members fought in the IRA, and because of them he lives a comfortable, cosy life, which is the same as me, you know. I have a very comfortable life because of what my ancestors did. Maybe not even my direct bloodline, but people who went before me. I wouldn't be able to enjoy all this if it wasn't for them. You know, so like, we've a lot to be grateful for in Ireland, and I don't think we are very grateful. Like, listening to Martin McGuinness, he said like the British Army would just take you off the street, you know, and harass you, torture you without trial, without reason, do whatever they wanted. I think we forget that, you know, because we haven't personally experienced it, so therefore it mustn't happen. But I don't think the likes of Kneecap help when they're always having to go with everyone, or, you know, calling Michael Collins a sellout and stuff like that, I think, which they did in the movie. I think it's a bit disrespectful, if I'm being honest, but I understand the 6 counties in the north out of the 32 were the ones that were left behind, but it wasn't as if Michael Collins had an easy job, you know. I think it was quite an unfair thing to say, but you can understand why they would feel left out as well. I think it's just ridiculous though. Even if what Kneecap said was very wrong, it's only words. You know, how about you stop what's actually going on? You know, innocent men, women and children are being murdered, and nobody seems to give a shit. Nobody's stopping it. In fact, the big powers and, you know, the superpowers of the world are actively funding it. They're sending them weapons. And according to Netanyahu, Free Palestine is the new Heil Hitler. Really? They're the same, are they? The arrogance like to come out and say that. Look at the situation with Russia and Ukraine as well, and India and Pakistan. As I said before, my auntie's married to a Pakistani lad, and you know, I see him as an uncle. You know, he's a really good lad. But I've also worked with a lot of really good Indian people, so I know that they've been in conflict for years, and so that's a tricky one, alright. But both very powerful militaries, and it's definitely concerning times. Like, you look at the horrific incidents that happened during the Holocaust, and you know, the Vietnam War, the Korean War, all this stuff, which was terrible, yeah, but we can actually see what's going on now. That's the difference. And the only ones who seem outraged are, you know, small fry like me, who, apart from making a post about it, we're going and protesting. That's all you can really do. But doesn't actually stop bombs being dropped or guns fired. The reason you protest, or you go online and post, is because you hope that people will, and what I mean is people in power, will get off their arses and fucking do something. They'll hear your pleas and your cries, and they'll actually bother their arse to do something and help out. But they don't seem to be. Ireland just seem to try and please everybody else, lick Europe's arse, and then, like, I've got enough of my own personal problems that I need to worry about. But one thing that I care about, and I know I can help out, and that's what I always come back to: what can you actually do? You can voice your concern, for sure. Help out in your local community, you know. That's one thing you can definitely do. I'll be starting a job now soon. I have to get a tour of the place and be doing that next week. And I'll be working with disadvantaged youths, and members of the travelling community, the LGBTQ plus community. I can't remember the whole thing, but if anyone has it, put it down below. It's like you have to be one way or the other, you hate all of one group or the other. It's like, why can't you be concerned for the well-being of Ireland and not be homophobic or racist or whatever? And I showed you the evidence. Someone said I'm xenophobic because I voiced concern about immigration in Ireland. I've even been told to take down posts if I, was applying for jobs. People I was working with said, "Oh, you won't get anything if you're associated with this or that." So I'm just voicing concern. I try not to get political or nothing, but things are not good in Ireland, I think it's all well and good worrying about problems abroad, which, you do, you're a human being. And I've worked with refugees, and you see them, and then it changes your opinion. You're like, you're actually putting a human being into the scenario. And then I'm like, there's young people working with me who are working their arses off, getting the bare minimum, and they are working. And my heart goes out to them, and then it's like, oh, now I'm not thinking kick them all out because I'm a human being with fucking empathy. I don't know, I don't know what the right answer is. All I know is that things in Ireland are not peachy. So I'm getting a job that I'll be helping out people locally, and I coach and I help young men out there. That's something. I can't go to Israel and stop the war or anything. I can't go to Ukraine and do it. But I can help out people in my area and support them. That's what you can do. And I think people build up a problem so much and go, oh, it's too big for me to solve it. We catastrophise everything, don't we? And we think, sure, there's nothing I can do. Start in your local community, I was only in yesterday cutting the neighbour's grass because they're an elderly couple, they're away. In fairness to them, we were struggling, and me and my brother were working, and my mum was home on her own. Even though they're elderly, he's an Italian fella, he's a lovely fella. He offered to cut the grass in his ride along. The neighbour before that, Mancunian. Kev, lovely fella, offered to help out. Just looking around because at a crossroads. I was only watching Supernatural there, the Crossroads Demons. That's what it made me think of. There's nowhere for me to put my little box though. It's a really good series, I'm really getting into it. I'm on season 3, but getting sidetracked. Rather than building something into a big, political campaign or whatever, how about you look after your neighbour, you look after your family members, you make better people for the future as well, because there's a lot of disillusioned young people out there. And I only met up with the addiction counsellor, Catherine, who I see not as regularly as I'd like to, but the reason for that is because there's a lot of young people who are struggling. The reason she can't see me as often as she would like is because she keeps getting more and more new people in, new patients. And what does that mean? That means that more and more people are struggling with addiction, mental illness. And I don't like to hear that, so obviously you're like, of course, yeah. Be very unempathetic to go, oh well, fuck them, I need you more. No, I understand completely. Because I went in and I was desperate. And I think had I not had all the addiction problems, I wouldn't have gotten the help I needed, because it seems like you have to be at your worst for anyone to help you. You don't want to be, but until you get there, nobody wants to help you, because they only prioritise when you're on death's door. Should we get to that stage? I don't think so. Just on a lighter note, this is why Wexford's colours are purple and gold. Yeah. See? Light purple. Lovely. Because all the plants and everything are lovely colours. Cows are out grazing. But yeah, I think a lot of people forget that there actually is quite a lot you can do, you know, for the betterment of society as a whole. How about you help out your local community? When I was growing up in Dublin, I didn't even know half my neighbours. They never made an effort, they never spoke to you. Here's an interesting one actually. The woman across the road hadn't spoken to my mum in, Jesus, 8 years, yeah. Just coming past the grave, so I always come past it and say a little prayer for the person who died. But yeah, my mum hadn't spoken to her in 8 years. Now, my mum can be a bit introverted, so I wouldn't say it was all one way or anything, but no effort was really made on either of their part, and your one didn't speak to her, didn't call over to see how she was, didn't chat to her. And then we were, getting ready to leave house. We got a skip, because we need to chuck out a load of shit. And your one came flying over and asked, could she use the skip? She'll pay €20 or something. I mean, Jesus, she wanted to throw a fucking mattress in there and stuff from the bed, and she was over quick enough when she wanted something. But not just to see, how are you? Got 3 waves so far. But yeah, that's the thing, None of our neighbours called over regularly. Now, as I say, it's not all their fault. My parents didn't make much of an effort. They'd have fallen out with one of the queen bees of the neighbourhood. There's always like a family who spread rumours or gossip about people, so if you're not friends with them or you fall out with them, they might badmouth you to others, and it's quite a messed up family situation. So my dad coming and going, and people love to talk shit, don't they, and spread rumours. But the point I'm getting at is, I didn't grow up with a sense of community, and that leaves you isolated, That's really what people are looking for. Which is why I feel like if you don't have a community and a group that you belong to, that leads to everybody being disillusioned. So then if they don't have that, that's why you see people seeking out far right groups, as people want to call them, or far left, because it's not as if far right are all bad and far left are all good. Seems like there's a lot of people virtue signalling on the far left, pretending like they're great people, when they're just as bad as the far right people. They're just pushing a different agenda and narrative. How about if you see a human being struggling, you fucking help them, if they're genuine, And if you see a human being being a prick and trying to attack people, you condemn them either way. Just look at this, so cool. They're all off in the field over there. Just a little breather. But yeah, like I feel like it's easier to catastrophize everything now, especially with social media and the news. But that's why I'm really grateful for all the different jobs I've worked, because I know that there's a lot of hard working foreign people and there's a lot of lazy Irish people, but I know there's also a lot of very good Irish people out there. I'm one of them. And of course there's bad foreign people out there. And it seems like you can't just say that. It seems like you have to go, oh, you know, all crime is because of the immigrants, when, you know, that's obviously not true. Some of it, yeah. But I mean, Ireland has had a problem with crime for a while, and it's been getting worse. It's only going to keep getting worse. And I've seen it firsthand. Most of the people that have threatened me, a vast majority of them are Irish, white Irish. But I've also seen antisocial behaviour from gangs of foreign men going around, and I've seen it firsthand, you know. And naturally, you let in 100,000 people. I think it's pretty reasonable to assume that 100 of them might not be good people. In fact, statistics would say probably 1,000 of them wouldn't be good people. That's only 1%. And everybody wants to put a label on the problem and say, it's this reason, it's that. I think the big problem is that as a community, as a whole, well, we don't have a community. There's a lot of people who don't have proper values and don't look after their neighbour. And if we did that, we'd have people who are more comfortable and secure, who could stand up for themselves, you know, who would learn to take people as they come. Like, it ironically seems like the worst off person in Ireland is the working Irish person who pays taxes and tries to actually better themselves. Seems like the more you give in and say, oh, I can't do it, or, you know, I need support, I'm a drug addict or whatever, then you get social welfare and you're looked after. You're better off, you know. And I'm not getting on my high horse, you know. I needed it. I definitely needed it, and that annoyed me. You know, I also am not complaining because it's helped me out so much, but loads of opportunities were given to me that I was crying out for, but when I was working my arse off and trying to better myself, more work just kept getting piled on me until I cracked. Which isn't good. How does that build a sense of getting up and out and working your arse off? It doesn't. It teaches people, give up, give in, don't try, because it's not worth your while. If you give in and say I can't cope, you'll be better off financially for it. You know? Then what are you creating? You're creating a load of people looking for handouts, which we've seen. So there we are. It's a messy, very messy fucking situation. I think the fact that people are getting condemned for talking rather than the ones who are committing violent, atrocious acts against humanity is disgraceful. And it shows where our priorities lie, doesn't it? You know, you've said a naughty word, so you're going to jail. Thought crimes, as they're calling them now. Someone got a longer sentence for posting something online than an actual child abuser. What does that tell you? And like, I have life experiences to draw on, and I worked with a Croatian girl who got racially abused by an Irish man who was on the dole and called her a dirty foreigner, stealing our jobs. And then she said, you know, we're actually hiring here, which we were. And he said, oh no, I wouldn't work for anything less than €12. The minimum wage at the time was less than €10. I think it was €9.50 at the time. It's like, you can't defend that, you know. But I've also, you know, experienced groups of North African lads coming over to us and saying, we're going to take over your country, and literally saying that. I'm not making that up. And then you're like, well, you're going to just take that, you're going to do something about it and get angry. Which we did, and then we had to sit through fucking, you know, lessons on racism and acceptance and tolerance. Why don't they have to do that too? You know, because they're not being tolerant. In fact, they're being intolerant of the local people. It's like, I think shit's only going to get worse. Don't see anyone actually doing anything to make it better. You know, what are people doing? If anyone has any examples, as you say, leave them in below. You know, what do you think? I think that there's a lot more simple solutions than people realise. If you get into your local community and you help it out, and you give something back, you're creating future generations of people who are confident, who are capable, and will look after their community. I think that's what young people are crying out for more than anything, and they're not getting it. Not only that, they're being told that because they're white and Irish they're bad, they're inherently racist by other, you know, usually I'd say overprivileged white Irish people who can shite on about being proud all they want, but they're not. You know, something I haven't used in a while, but calling your own pale and stale. How woke is that? A lot of bullshit. So then inevitably you feel inferior and like you have to apologise just for being you. Like, what's that all about? As I say, my job will be working with disadvantaged people, you know, and I'll be volunteering with a special needs school, so that's something, that's giving back, isn't it? You know, that's helping out those in the community that are less privileged than yourself. Like, I never grew up with that, you know. My mum and dad were outcasts. They didn't belong to anything. They didn't seem to make an effort with anyone. They let friendships fizzle out. So me and my brother were the same. We were always on the outskirts trying to fit in with different groups, and you know, people will have their own little cliques and groups already. That's not nice, you know, not being shunned or being laughed at by a group, you know, and having to try with another and another, finding your group, your gang. And that's the problem right there. Everybody just looks out for number one. They don't look out for each other. They're selfish. And we call out the wrong things. We don't call out actual crimes and bullshit going on. We focus on speech rather than actual violence. And people are just saying this time and time again. It's no wonder everybody's mental health is fucked. And down here I feel like people have been more welcoming to me than I've ever been, which has given me confidence. You know, I've gotten more help than I ever got before. It's not just, I'll take these pills and you'll be fine. It's like having a rugby team of lads that you love, and you know, not to get all cringy, well I will anyway, but they're your brothers in arms. Like, they're your team, you know what I mean? You're part of that team. So like, if anyone does anything to them, If any of your teammates, you'll back them up, you know, you'll have their back. Something to which my dad couldn't understand that phrase through. What do you mean, have your back? Shows you've never had anyone's back. You know, it's quite fucking cowardly looking out for number one and not ever looking out for anyone else. Which is why I have such an issue with it. And the fact that your own father can't understand what that means just shows, doesn't it? And there's the problem. Just a lot of young men being left without any role models, and that's what I'm saying. That's why I keep talking about it, but I think it has to do with everything we're saying right now. They're more easily manipulated because they don't have role models. Like single parent households are the norm now, which it shouldn't be, but it fucking is. Overworking is normalised, which it shouldn't be. Nobody has any time to spend with their kids and actually raise them into good adults. Everything is through the roof, prices just keep increasing with everything. So everyone's struggling. It's a hard time, it really is. And saying, I just need to toughen up. What the fuck does that help with? Nothing. It's just a throwaway comment. It doesn't help anyone. And maybe the people who are saying they just don't want to look at themselves and how they've fucked up. Yeah, I think it is far more complicated than people would like to admit. You know, because then they'd have to look in at their own shit and what they've fucked up with. Things they wish they'd done differently. But like, when you do marginalise someone, or you pick on someone, you know, you discriminate against them. Like, say for instance, I can actually understand completely why, say, someone who is gay and has been shunned or bullied for it would be ultra accepting of everyone and genuinely mean it, because you know, and imagine as well, like if you're autistic like me and everyone shuns you, and they say like a lot of the LGBTQ plus YZ, but they say a lot of them are neurodivergent, because, and I can relate to this as well, if you're a more effeminate man, which could definitely, you know, be true, because, you know, just going to everything bullheaded and, you know, big dick energy, you know, I want my way and I'm doing it my way and imposing your will on other people. That's a really toxic masculine thing to do, but you're more willing to problem solve and write things down and think them out, have a discussion even. That would be seen as a more feminine trait. So basically what happens is you're shunned, you know, you're not a real man, you're a coward, you're a wuss. Go off and dance with the girls. And I mean, I can speak to it as someone who pushed everything down and tried to be ultra masculine, but, you know, there I show my true colours. I knew I would have been excluded because I was more feminine in a few ways, but that's not allowed. So then, if you are shunned, you start being accepting of everyone. You're neurodivergent and you're gay. You're mocked for both of those things. You're not very sporty, and everybody shunned you for it. So you have strong feelings of, you know, standing up for the little guy or marginalised groups. I can understand that. And in Ireland, maybe, you know, you're Irish, but your dad is a white Irish man who condemned you for being gay, and your brothers did the same thing. And I've heard stories like this, and when you actually look at it, you're like, fair enough. So you see white Irishmen as being unaccepting, unwelcoming, you know, homophobic, racist, which of course isn't the truth, but that's been your experience. So, because it happened to you as a kid as well, maybe you weren't accepted, so you think everybody else is better because they don't discriminate against me, they accept me for who I am. Does that make sense? So, my own father is a white Irish man, my brother's a white Irish man. They don't accept, they discriminate. So whenever a white Irish man says, I don't accept this person, or I'm concerned about my country, then it's almost like they're saying their father again, or their brothers, being intolerant and unaccepting. And then, like, I mean, if you throw the Catholic Church in on top of that, with all these intense feelings of, you know, pride is wrong, you have to feel guilty and shameful about everything. It's actually very understandable, isn't it? Like, like if you throw in the stronghold that the Catholic Church had on Ireland and how oppressive they were, then, like, you know, you have to speak to your parents about this. Like, if they were born in the 60s or the 70s, even the 80s, they would have known of the really, you know, tight grip the Catholic Church had over Ireland. And you think of Irish stereotypes were inherently very Catholic, and, you know, religion was a big thing. You know, The Simpsons, when they go to Protestant heaven and Catholic heaven, and Catholic heaven is the Mexicans playing their guitars with the sombreros, the Italians cooking food, but then the Irish having a fight, getting drunk and fighting. So, like, it's part of our identity, isn't it? You know, it's always been the main religion. But speaking to my dad, who went to a school run by Christian brothers, who, you know, battered him. One of them tried to molest my uncle, you know, and actually did. Poor fella, like, they had so much control and power. And if you were anyway gender confused, well then God help you, you know. You were guilty and you were shamed and shunned and all that, but they're off doing unspeakable things to people. And it's fine for them. And then my mum's school, like, was run by nuns who told them they were all sinners, you know, and they'd all broken their pledges, you know, that you make on your confirmation, that I won't drink until I'm 18. They just assumed that they'd all sinned, and so who wants to fucking live with that? So Ireland has gone from that, and rightfully, like, I'd say we're ironically in a transition. Everyone seemed miserable, everybody wanted to get the hell out of Ireland, and we're kind of getting there again, but for different reasons, which I find very ironic. We literally went from being gay as a sin, you know, sex is a sin, you know, thinking about women, or if you're a man, you're a dirty little pervert, you know, masturbation is wrong. Who wants to live with that? Like, I understand why people would turn away from that, and when you do turn away from that, there's a big void left. You know, we all want to fill up the void. And I think with Ireland, what we've filled it up with is being accepting, being tolerant, having a good time, and that's good. and I've benefited from that because God only knows how I would have been treated back in the old Catholic Church regime. I mean, they were half tempted to throw me in the corner and say that I was worthless and couldn't achieve anything to begin with, but would have definitely been a lot worse. So I mean, it's better for me for sure. It's more accepting of people that are neurodivergent, and I think that's a good thing. You know, I benefit from a more accepting Ireland, and it has gotten way more accepting. So I don't know. We're in a difficult period in Ireland, aren't we? And everything always comes back to Ireland because it's where I live. It's where I'm born and raised. And I think all we're hearing is one extreme or the other. Kick them all out or let everyone in. What about let the good people in? And if they do anything, like if they don't respect the country they're in, then kick them out, yeah. But if there's people who are taking opportunities afforded to them and are working, no problem. You're more than welcome. And I've seen it, you know. A lot of foreign people are just doing the jobs that Irish people aren't willing to do. So, but I can also understand why, as an Irish person, you expect a better wage. And you should do. Everything's fucking expensive enough. So you need a higher wage to keep up with demand. And people aren't getting it. So they're going elsewhere where they're appreciated. I can understand why you do that. Why stay in a country where you're not being appreciated? Where you can go somewhere where your wages are better and you can actually afford to live in comfort. I can understand that completely. But like, you have to look at something as well that I think we're seeing a lot of. Big trucks and cars going by, but planning permission here in Gorey, Wexford, where I am, was refused for a wealthy business owner. I won't mention names, but he wanted to put an iPass centre into a spot where it was supposed to be a daycare centre. And the government keep doing this, where they say, oh yeah, it'll be a daycare centre. Next thing you know, oh sorry, fuck you, we're changing it to something else, hope you don't mind. Not that we care if you do. Why? Because business owners get massive subsidies from the government. And there's a lot of people who are, you know, wealthy business owners, Irish business owners as well, I might add, who are in bed with the government. It's all getting a bit conspiracy theory, but it's kind of like, I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine. I was going to say, I'll scratch my back if you scratch yours. I'll show you yours if you show me mine. But it's like something out of a movie. You know, getting into bed with the government. They put in a big iPass centre. I make a shitload of money off it from government subsidies, who, you know, obviously paid by the taxpayer, of course, who else? And then I, as the government official who approved it, I get a nice little payoff from you. Makes sense, doesn't it? And like, that seems like a pretty sweet deal. Just keep dipping into the taxpayers' money to suit their own fucking needs. So why would you want to just keep paying more and more tax while getting fuck all in return? You wouldn't. And you shouldn't, you know. And then people protest peacefully and are labelled as thugs Then they get fed up, it gets violent, and they're locked up. It's a messy situation, isn't it? Fucking hell, it's messy. But it's Irish government officials. Fucking hell, another one on a tractor. Anyway, it's Irish government officials and it's Irish businessmen, women, who are greatly profiting off the Irish taxpayer. But who are they seeing, and who are they thinking they're the problem? Is the foreign people who are coming over. That's who they're seeing in the iPass centre, and that's who they're going, it's your fault that my taxes are going up or whatever. But when I hear the stuff like all refugees welcome, I think no, not all. Like, because there's a few people there claiming refugee status when they're not. You know, they're known criminals in their countries, and you can check this out. There's a lot of stats to back this up. They're known to be bad eggs, but we accept them. Of course we do. Good little Ireland will take you. We deport, you know, women who are fleeing with their children, who are going to be tortured when they get home. We send them back when they've proved that they're going to work and they've a child in school over here. And by the way, if you brought a child over and they're in a school, they're doing what they should be doing. Why would you want to send them back? Like, you hear that they can't get a place in school, and like people are saying, yeah, well, Irish kids can't get a place in school either, which I can kind of understand to a degree. You know, everybody's in the same boat. It's not like you're special, but I don't think homeschooling is the situation either, because that barely even worked during COVID when parents were off themselves. So if they have to go to work, then that's obviously not a good solution. We've bitten off more than we can chew, really, haven't we? We're trying to impress everyone, and that's exactly the thing. Our woke government elite want to look good for the big fancy politicians of Europe. They want to impress them. They're so eager to impress them that they couldn't give a shit about their own people and the welfare of people who are going about their daily lives. And people are getting fed up. It's bound to fucking happen. I was speaking to my Dutch cousin. So you want to say that Irish people are, you know, unruly and, you know, break the law and are violent, and he said, as a Dutch person, and you consider Holland a very civilised country, he was amazed at how compliant Irish people were with COVID regulations. Everyone wearing a mask, everyone just doing what they were told. So I was happy to hear, you know, because I always think that we're known to be violent and aggressive. Obviously that's not the truth. We're very compliant. We thought of everybody else, you know. And I mean, in Holland they're definitely more selfish, for sure. I know my rights and I kind of stick to myself. I won't bother you, but you don't bother me. That kind of way. You know, I think that's something I definitely prefer about Ireland, is the sense of, you know, friendliness. We look after each other, but that's why I think it's even more important to us to have that sense of community, because we've always had it. It's in our nature, and if we lose that, we lose a part of ourselves. You know, I don't want us to lose that. I think we're all trying. Well, I say we're all trying. Certainly the elite Irish people are all trying to be more like Europe, which, you know, strive for better wealth and all that shite, yeah, but I think it's also a more selfish mindset of, I want the great job and I want the big business, but I want kids as well that I don't look after, that I don't see. I look out for number one, but nobody else. And I've seen it, you know, where they don't intervene if someone's getting their fucking head kicked in or in trouble. Old school Irish people will, but it's definitely more a sense of selfishness here, you know. So I guess that's something to finish off, because I've gone on long enough. But look after your community first and foremost. That's what I'm doing now. I'm helping out those I can that are less fortunate. I can't wait to start, it should be fun. Giving back something. I understand how hard it was for me, and I'd like to make it easier for others if I can. You know, why not give something back? Make somebody's life a bit easier. You'll gain something from it as well. Sense of pride, sense of fulfillment. You know, I think we should all look to do that a bit more, rather than just looking out for number one all the time. You know, definitely think, look, if someone doesn't ask you for help, sometimes you have to deal with your own shit, and if you're not in a good space mentally, you know, there's a lot of things that I got really concerned about, but I'm dealing with my own shit, so I can't help other people even if I wanted to. But now that I've gotten the help that I need and I'm getting better, I'm going to go in, do the interview, have my induction, and then hopefully I'll absolutely love it. Giving something back to those who need it, that's the main thing. Alright guys, see you in the next one. Ta-da, slán go fóill.